Welcome everyone to my session on producing meaningful content for YouTube. I'll get to my reasons for this specific title, but let me first give you a window into my world. I work at the Washington International School located in Washington, D.C. This is my 7th year with the school. Up until February of last year, I was a middle and upper school librarian. At that time, I transitioned into my current role as the Learning and Technology Coordinator. The school is an amazing community committed to its mission and is in many ways a perfect fit for my interests. There are students from all over the world, which gives the school a true international pulse and the ability to engage in meaningful, global-minded educational experiences. Some things you should know about me: I am passionate about languages and have had the good fortune of participating in powerful learning experiences away from my home country. I find it extremely gratifying being able to work in a multilingual environment. After university, I went to grad school to pursue a master's degree in Library and Information Services. I felt this career path offered me the most flexibility in terms of future career paths in line with my interests. From there, I joined the Peace Corps, spending 27 months in Cameroon doing some teaching and library development work. So what does a Learning and Technology Coordinator do? Many of you are likely in this role at your school. Let me start with a question. How many of you are that person people email when they just can't figure something out? I am becoming more and more that person, and it's not because I am especially savvy. What I am good at is finding out how to do something. My secret? Something called YouTube. More often than not, I turn to YouTube to learn how to do something, and it works. And I come across as looking like someone who really knows what they're doing. Just the other day, a colleague asked if there was a way to view a specific set of results from a Google survey he had sent out to parents. I went straight to YouTube, learned how to apply a filter in Google Spreadsheets, and fired off the result he was looking for. So it's hard to define precisely what I bring to the school, but here's a short list of my activities. If any of you also engage in these sorts of activities, I would love to chat with you at some point. In terms of YouTube, let's look at the landscape at WIS, or as I like to call it, the WIScape. The single question that led to this presentation arose after a survey I had sent out to the faculty. Let me briefly comment on the results, and then I will show you the question. The first question was, have you shown a clip from YouTube to your class this year? And 88.4% of the respondents, of which represents 2/3 of the faculty. I ended up getting 43 submissions out of a total of a possible 62. So it's a pretty good representation of the faculty, of the middle school and upper school faculty here. So here we go. We've got 88% versus 11 in terms of showing clips of YouTube, which is fairly high and perhaps quite common. Would you be interested in using YouTube more in the classroom? Now, this question actually rose the yes response even higher. So 93% of our teachers are indicating that they would actually like to use YouTube more in the classroom. Have you in the past produced and uploaded any original content to YouTube for your class? Now this number, it's down a bit, 32.6% versus a 67.4% no. Have your students used YouTube for assignments? 65% of faculty responded that no, they have not used YouTube for assignments, and 34.9% have said yes. So the question is, why are we consuming so much more than we are producing? Hence the title of this presentation, Producing Meaningful Content for YouTube. I would like to see us begin producing more content for YouTube and sort of narrowing that difference, evening out the amount we consume and we produce. Well, for one thing, time is often an issue. When I raised this issue with the faculty, a colleague wrote back saying this: I think it's that way because it takes 2 seconds to use YouTube and many hours to contribute to it. Equipment is also an issue. It's easy to look at all of the amazing stuff on YouTube and think to yourself, well, I'll just use what's there because I could never make anything as cool as that. Honestly, depending on your purpose, equipment has very little to do with producing meaningful content. Several people have already produced tutorials on topics I cover and likely have way more views. However, I'm producing for a very specific audience. If others benefit from my work, that's great, but ultimately, I'm in it for my faculty. Therefore, a video with only 35 views does not tell me that my work is awful, but rather over 50% of my faculty have tuned in for a learning experience directed at them. Fear is another barrier to producing content. How will others judge my work? I think many people underestimate their own abilities and for that reason are not successful risk takers. And of course, there's skepticism. Will using YouTube to flip my classroom really enhance learning? Pushing these obstacles aside, let's look at how WIS teachers are currently using YouTube. So I've come up with a list of meaningful applications for teachers. You may think of several more that you could include on this, but these were the ones that I kind of asked faculty to respond to. And they are demonstrate examples, prompt classroom discussions, provide feedback to students, distribute notes and lectures, and publish student work. So when the results came back, this is what I found. 79% have used it to demonstrate examples. 77% have used it to prompt classroom discussions. Only 9% are using it to give feedback to students. 16% are using it to distribute notes and lectures. And 23% are using it to publish student work. In terms of applications for technology specialists, like me, there are a couple of options. Probably a lot more than a couple, but these are the two that I'm tending to focus on in my current role. So the first thing is tutorials. Some people ask me, well, how do you get your ideas for tutorials? Well, the best way is typically just to kind of keep your eyes and ears open and to listen for the needs of the faculty. And it's a given that something is going to come up, that they're either your teachers are complaining about something that doesn't work, or things are just very complicated and you'd rather just get the message out all at once and let people kind of watch it on their own time about how to perform specific operations. So tutorials are a very valuable use of my time, and I will continue to produce those. And the next, of course, which I'm just learning more about now, but is just documenting learning, thinking, and teaching. And I'm specifically interested in thinking, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So why is YouTube such a great resource for video? Well, first off, you have almost unlimited storage potential, right? So there's no worry of no longer having space to store your videos. Also, sharing is extremely easy. With the click of a button, you can share it to whoever you want. Finding content. I think we've all had the occasion to search for content on YouTube and find it. And it's usually fairly quite straightforward unless there is so much content around that subject that it might be hard to find the specific video you're looking for. But for the most part, by proper tagging and sort of metadata, there are good ways of finding specific information. And finally, there's this idea of control. In YouTube, you have a certain amount of control in terms of the type of license you'd like to attribute to your work, and also determining if you want it to be listed in the search results in YouTube. You could upload a video and set it as anyone with the link can view the document, making it public but not really findable. Let me now mention a few specific examples of how WIS teachers are using YouTube. Senora Handura is an upper school Spanish teacher who has invested a lot of time and effort in producing videos on Spanish grammar. Her technique is using Apple's Keynote software along with QuickTime Player's screen recording capacity to deliver these lessons. They are especially useful for students who need to reinforce their understanding time and time again. Tom Heilman is an upper school English teacher who is constantly thinking about his craft. I'm currently working on a YouTube project with him regarding poetry analysis and thinking routines. Tom has used YouTube to deliver feedback to students about their writing. Now, moving away from the language arts, the science department has also leveraged the meaningful uses of YouTube. This microscope has now become this YouTube channel. Let me just play for you a short clip regarding the use of a microscope camera in a biology class.
It was I just started taking videos and amassing them on this half-terabyte hard drive that the library was kind enough to furnish the bio department with. And then it started to grow into, wow, I wish that I could access that video that I took last week and show it to the kids and share it with the kids. And then, as you mentioned, the social aspect of the microscope, it used to be, until fairly recently, very individual. Someone would be looking under the microscope, and that was the only person who could actually see what was going on, who could actually appreciate what was going on, and ultimately for the kids really understand what was going on, because I can look through it and know what I'm seeing, and I can try and describe what I'm seeing to the students, but ultimately it's very difficult for them to be able to transfer some description or even a picture into something that's useful.
YouTube has become such a hit in the science department that they've expanded their reach from the microscopic world to include more familiar surroundings. This particular video explains in dramatic detail the parts of a cell and their functions, creatively bringing science and theater together. James Martin is an economics teacher at WIS who spent a good part of his summer poring over the IB economics syllabus, thinking about ways he could deliver key concept lectures to supplement his regular class. He's up to 2,156 video views. Way to go, James. So this leads me to the case for the flipped classroom. Are most teachers ready to make this transition? Based on my survey, we're still in the dark as to how much students actually use YouTube for educational purposes. So up until this point, we've been talking about YouTube uses in the classroom. Let's now step outside of the classroom and look at the school as a whole. How can you as a school use YouTube? And again, how can you use it to produce meaningful, purposeful content? Well, let me just give you an example. Every year at WIS, we have what's called the Global Issues Film Festival. Now, without YouTube, our annual festival would not be what it is today. We use YouTube to distribute submissions to jurors who then critique the films based on a rubric and make choices about which films should be screened and what prize, if any, should be given. Here's just a screenshot of the playlist that is delivered to the jurors. Another community aspect of using YouTube is found in the News Action website. Now, News Action is a news website committed to student journalism. So sure, you've heard of CNN and BBC, but you will not find a more robust professional network giving student journalists a voice and an opportunity to be part of a news bureau. If you haven't visited News Action before today, I encourage you to do so. Coincidentally, one student who consistently wows audiences with her film festival submissions has produced this piece about News Action. So perhaps after seeing all of these examples, you have an appetite to do more with YouTube. There's no easy formula for getting started. However, I do recommend keeping your eyes and ears open for opportunities. There's certainly more than one way to get involved, and I encourage you to surround yourself with people who are also curious about what YouTube can do for learning and how best to incorporate it into your community. Maybe look at what your school needs most in terms of PD and try creating some short tutorials. As for me, I've shifted my focus to not only being content-driven, but finding ways to encourage better thinking. It's easy to go straight for the content. At WIS, we've invested heavily in the Project Zero philosophy, which emphasizes the importance of making thinking visible. If you are familiar with the work of Ron Richart, you will know what I'm talking about. Ron has a new book coming out, and you can actually find chapter 1 of this book online. And right in chapter 1, he says something in regards to split screen teaching that I find is kind of fascinating. He says that a chief goal of instruction, right alongside the development of content understanding, is the advancement of thinking. So really we need to kind of nurture our students as thinkers. And I think if we can find a way to layer technology to support this emphasis on thinking, the better we are. So don't worry if you've not yet had the chance to engage in a thinking routine, because I'm about to engage in one with you right now. Seeing as though this is a pre-recorded presentation, we're not actually going to do the Think, Pair, Share, but this is what will be taking place at the Prague Summit. So, and what this involves is watching a particular YouTube video that I've chosen, and we're going to watch the video, think about it, pair up with somebody in the room, and then we're going to actually share our findings to the rest of the room. How are we going to do that? Well, there's a handy little tool known as the corkboard. This is the URL that we're going to be using. And what I'm going to ask you to do, of course, this is those who are in the room with me, is we are going to watch the video, and then we're going to attach a blue Post-it to the board answering the question, what do you think the producer of this video has learned? And then with a yellow Post-it, we're going to answer the question, in what ways has the producer nurtured thinking in his production? So I'm going to leave you with those two questions, and
thank you for watching.